Ever since I glitched that, what I now know is the beta Sherry or 1.5 version of Sherry into the Source Next version of Resident Evil 2, I've been using a bunch of programs to look through the files to actually see if I can find like any textures or like a full model file for that specific Sherry with not a lot of luck. So I had the idea I have a Resident Evil 2 demo disc, which is the one that specifically comes from Resident Evil 1 Director's Cut. It comes with that. So the name for it is SLUS 9009. Because I think there's like another Resident Evil 2 demo, but this is like this specific one. And I had the idea to maybe use the same programs that I have to look through the files to see if it's possible for any 1.5 content to show up. And I did have a lot of luck because I came across a treasure trove of stuff. The first thing I actually came across, which was, I think it's like the second to last model. I have like the data from the disk copied over to my computer so I can do more stuff with it. But in the PLD folder, which is where the characters and weapon model files are, in the second to last model, I checked it out and it's 1.5 Sherry, even though she doesn't actually show up in the demo at all. But there's a whole model for her right here, and she's even got she's got like 9 animations to her as well. We could take a look at those. Some walking. But yeah, ever since I saw this, when I saw this, I was like, okay, I really gotta wonder how much 1.5 content is on this CD. So, I actually used, what I'm using now to view the, model files is Resident Evil 2 RE2 MV, version 0.9B. And, it works for most of the model files. I did try and extract a bunch of enemy model files, and it has like a hard time trying to read them. I even used the Biohazard file archive tool to disassemble the model files without a lot of luck, and I've been reading like they have to be like the bytes of the files have to be edited in order for them to be read, and they're all individual in terms of editing, so I just don't want to bother with that. Eventually, I'd like to get to those, though, to see if there's any 1.5 enemies in there, or maybe early versions of Resident Evil 2s. Now, there is a lot of stuff, like, I went through the room files. There's tons of room files to go through. There's a lot of, like, 1.5 rooms and early stuff from Resident Evil 2, and I will specify if it's specifically a 1.5 thing or something that's early. When I say early Resident Evil 2, I mean Resident Evil 2 specifically, the final version, and not 1.5, because 1.5 is a completely different thing. 1.5 is the scrapped version of Resident Evil 2, just with a lot of different things, so completely different. Okay, this is like a box moving animation, but yeah, she has quite a bit. Looks like she's injured here. And I had actually looked through I guess along with her, there's some weapon files, which I thought maybe were just like really early. I didn't actually know that they were 1.5 weapons, because in order to help me differentiate things, to know what actually shows up in 1.5 and what is like something early to Resident Evil 2, is I did, thanks to a friend on Twitter, I played the Magic Zombie Door version 1.5 with the Martin Biohazard patch, which allows you to use the debugger, and you can jump to like a lot of rooms that you normally wouldn't be able to get into. So I spent a lot of time trying to go through that and just viewing all the rooms and seeing what content is available. It's just amazing. Like, 1.5 has so much content, like I can understand why, there's a lot of reasons why, it wouldn't have worked, but, there's just so many rooms in the RPD and in the labs and stuff. It's so expansive compared to what we got, and no, it's just amazing. And as you can see, like, I think the so these are really like primitive textures here, really basic textures. So I think these, compared to the Resident Evil 2's actual guns, I think these might be the 1.5 ones, because the textures are really simple and basic. When I played 1.5, I think it was fixed to have like the preset guns and stuff. The Magic Zombie Door version, you could use like all the guns, most of the guns, and they had like 255 bullets each. I mean, why not? You're playing like an unfinished version of it, might as well just use what you can. Let's see, here's another pistol here. There was a weird machine gun. Let's see if I can get to it. Is it this one? I think it was. I'm trying to think which way it goes. Well, I'm not quite sure, because this kind of looks... This isn't quite a machine gun. It's like a different one. I forgot what it was called, but this is one of the machine guns in the game. I think it actually has like a higher caliber rounds compared to the other submachine gun you get. So I'm not quite sure what it's called. I'm not really good with weapons. These are a bunch of dummy hands here. Let's see. This is 0. See, and then we have... Well, this doesn't show up properly. Sometimes when I load models into RE2 and V, they kind of show up a little weird. All disjointed. She has some animations with her too. So this is like normal Ada. This isn't the 1.5 version of her. I don't know why the joints show up like that sometimes. And also I don't know if this is the most recent version of RE2MV. This is like the last one I could find. So I'm sure it still needs some fixes. Just basic animations. It looks so strange with the limbs the way they are. Let's see here. It says PLOE. We're gonna take a look at the weapons. There's quite a few here. And then I'll get to the rooms, which is the biggest thing that I came across that has like the most stuff. It's just so dense with content. The room files. There's just so much to look at. But let me just take a look at these. This is a really basic looking rocket launcher, which I don't think I could even use in the version 1.5 that I played. And you can't use it in the RE2 demo, as far as I know. I mean, this texture is like somebody drew it in paint, basically. Rocket launcher. I'm gonna try to get through these real quick. I've got quite a few here. And there's a bunch of like dummy hands too that don't have any weapons. This is a flamethrower. Let's see. More dummy hands. So I can't, I'm pretty sure this is a shotgun, although, because of like how low polygon the models are, it's actually hard for me to tell sometimes between the, and also because of the textures too. This might be the grenade launcher, but I'm not sure. Sometimes I get confused between the models for the shotgun and the grenade launcher because they look pretty similar. 9, 8, 7. Like I said, this does look like a shotgun though. It's like an assault shotgun. I believe this is also, I'm not sure which one this is. I believe when I played 1.5, this was, a semi-automatic handgun? Because there was one that actually shot like a semi-automatic, so I think this is the one. I think you can use it with the 9mm rounds. Kind of like, it's funny because this is like one of the guns, I don't know the name of it, but when you're playing the remake for Resident Evil 2, I think the base scenario of Claire, you get like 2 handguns, one that shoots normally, and then you get one that fires 3 rounds at once, which some people aren't as comfortable with because it misses a lot of shots. I didn't have too much problem using that gun, but it, you know, it burns through rounds, so I did find that particular gun useful for if you're the kind of person. It's not good for like going for headshots. With that game, this is another pistol. Actually, this might be a Magnum because of how wide the barrel is here. With that game, like I said, or I guess through when I've made comparisons before between old Resident Evil 2 and the remake, you shouldn't be so focused on trying to kill the enemies unless you absolutely have to. Go for them knees. And here we have a handgun with the stock on it. Yeah. Which I'm pretty sure you get Resident Evil 2. Regular Resident Evil 2. More dummy hands. But yeah, that semi-automatic handgun is good for shooting out legs. I didn't have too much trouble with another handgun. Don't know which one. They all kind of look the same here. And the knife. And let me see. I think the rest is just hands. No, there's the submachine gun. Or actually, is this a full? This might be the full one. No, this is a sub because it's got a. I don't know my guns. That's the one you can get in normal Resident Evil 2. So I'm not a gun expert. I know some things, but CWE. Yeah, just more hands. I think that's what the rest of these are. Yep. Let's check the rest here. And then we'll move on to rooms. So with the rooms, what I'm going to do is, so I have 2 programs. I might use MV2, but sometimes it's a little unstable and it will crash, especially when I'm running XSplit to capture things. So, I have something else that's used to view a multitude of files, which is called Noesis. I can view, texture files with it, model files sometimes. It depends. If I can't, I'll use MV. But, so what I have with the rooms, there's 2 separate folders for the rooms. There's something called BSS, or, it's got BSS files in it, and those are the pre-rendered background files for the rooms. And there's like a fuck ton of them. And then there's the RDT folder, which is like, got all the model information, which when I use the Biohazard Archive tool to extract them, and some of them not so successfully, some of them are actually missing model files. Some of them actually have objects on them, which we could take a look at. And having the BSS program open will allow me to know what kind of room those objects are in. I'll be able to like tell, like, oh, this is like a lab room and it has this sort of object in it, and that's where this belongs. So, and I think the final one might be Leon. Let's take a look here. Model file. Now his limbs actually, I don't know why Ada's model didn't appear properly. I don't know why her limbs are like disconnected. And he's got, yeah, pretty much the same, just backwards walking. Dying. Huh. I didn't notice he actually looks at, he looks at his hand when he's dying. I never noticed that. That's pretty cool. It's amazing how detailed the, sometimes it's hard to tell in game when you're playing it, because if you're playing on a lower resolution, then the faces might look kind of messed up, but This is actually a pretty detailed face for a PS1 model. I'll have to actually compare it with the model from the Source Next version to see how detailed it is. What do you think? Let me check. Well, I won't do that now. I'll do that later. But let's take a look at the rooms. And so they all have numbers to them. They all have different dates of when the rooms were created. Let's see, how do I want to do this here? Let's switch to turn off MV and switch to BSS, which I might have to. It looks like XSplit is being a little funky. I noticed. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get it to show up. Yeah, XSplit is just weird about capturing stuff. Let me get that on here. I swear, ever since they did the update for XSplit, here we go. This is BSS. Let's see if I get that a little bit wider. I'm not so good at like automatically doing things in XSplit. This is to view the BSS files, which are the background files. And then I guess, let me see if MV, I don't know, MV is not working like it should. I'm hoping it captured the other stuff. So I'll have to get rid of that process, but we'll just look at the background files first. And then, let's see, does Noesis show up? Yeah, Noesis. I guess I can use Noesis. I'll use Noesis BSS, and I guess I'll put MV back up. Let's see. I'll be switching to, I've got 3 different programs for this, so just give me one moment. There we go. Now we got it running. I don't know why they turn off sometimes. Okay, BSS first, background files for the rooms. Well, I can't show it on here because it didn't show the file open thing, but we'll start from the bottom. And the reason I went through 1.5 recently is I wanted to see what sort of rooms are actually available in that version of the game. Because I know, is it Team Aegis? Was working on 1.5 and trying to get whatever they could to put it together into a full game. I don't know how long it's been since they've updated it, but I downloaded like whatever version was out there, plus the Martin Biohazard patch, because I wanted to see how much content was in there. That way when I go through this, I can decide like what hasn't been seen yet, or what isn't in that game yet, what they haven't put in there. I don't know what files they have available. I can't remember what... I don't really know how 1.5 was leaked, or if it came with something, or if they found the content on something, but the content is definitely on the demo disc for Resident Evil 2, so we'll look at that. We'll start for the bottom. It says room 706, and the date for it is 7/16/1997, and I'll tell you if this is actually something that shows up in the version of 1.5 I played or not, and maybe like what kind of room it is. So we've got, it takes a little bit to load. Okay, so this actually looks like, so what you can do with BSS is sort of use the scroll thing on your mouse to kind of scroll through the images. It'll tell you how many, I guess, viewpoints there are in the room. This is the lab, obviously. The layout is different though. However, you know, the lab in 1.5 is so expansive and a little bit confusing that it's hard to tell if this is on the disc I noticed that, some of the rooms, like as they got through, in the process of creating like the final version of Resident Evil 2, I do notice that like certain elements of 1.5 are blended into Resident Evil 2, and then you had the final versions of the labs. This definitely looks like a cross between 1.5 and the final lab. This is definitely not a layout you come across in the final version. However, when I played 1.5, I don't think it was this. It looked as good as this. Like, these textures actually look like Resident Evil 2's quality. So, because I think later, somewhere in the room files, I do come across something that looks similar to this, but it's definitely of like 1.5's quality. Looks a little unfinished. But I mean, this is 1.5 mostly in the layout and everything. And this is how they did the, I guess the different doors when you're in the main shaft. I don't remember coming across this or not. I think the doors just went straight to the hallways. So it's a little weird. That's amazing looking though. Yeah, the main shaft in Resident Evil 2 is definitely, in the final version, is definitely done different. Instead of having like an enclosed shaft, you have the main shaft area with the fuse, and then you have open doors, and they each go to the different areas. Like, I think straight away, it actually has like little things, and then the doors are closed. So, actually, since we're on that, let me switch to. Ah, boy. Let's switch to MV and see what I can get to come up in those. There's a lot of like the room, the folders for the room files, they are missing a lot of stuff. Let's see if I can look through it. So that is room, I think I have most of these extracted, so that is 706. Okay, let's see if there's anything in here. There is not. So I might have to. So each room folder has a folder that says message, which I assume might be like whenever you check objects or files or something, like a message comes up. A folder for objects, which might be items in the room or maybe a puzzle or something. And then SCD, which I believe is the folder for the script files for the room. Okay, so we don't see any object files. Let's check Noesis. Let me put it back on here. It's going to be a little confusing. Let's check the room for any texture files that show up. Because the background files are treated separate. It does not look like anything is showing up here, which is unfortunate. So all we have is the background files for this room for now. Let's take a look at another one. I'm probably going to have to do a part 2, by the way, because this is a lot of stuff to go through. So we'll look at a few for now. And, oh, it looks like... See, whenever I switch off a process, it, for some reason, BSSM and I think, okay, MV still shows up. It seems like I'm constantly having to remove and add BSS. So let's do that again. It's an annoying thing to do here. XSplit, get your shit together. It might just be the program, but I've been having trouble with XSplit recently, so... Okay. Let's take a look at the next stuff here. There's actually some, there's a few things in here, but there's actually some really interesting looking test rooms that don't have any textures, that kind of look like, a base to use for the backgrounds when actually, like, making a pre-rendered background for it. So they're pretty interesting. There's like a few. This is 705. This is definitely a rough... This might actually be a test room as well. As you can see, very primitive looking cars. It's like an outdoor area, which you really don't... When I was playing 1.5, you really don't go outside beyond... There's like some areas that are outside, but they still have barriers around them. There's no like running around in the streets kind of area, which this seems to be. There's some like really primitive looking blockades. Yeah, very primitive. Like, you don't even know what kind of buildings are around or anything like that. So, just interesting, though. I'm assuming that's supposed to be a wall of some sort. I don't even know. Now, I doubt I'm going to find anything with Noesis, but let's just switch here to Noesis. I think in order to solve this, instead of switching BSS off, I can move. With XSplit, you can move the different sources up and down, so you can move them above another. I guess I can do that in order to keep BSSM from closing or not being able to be detected by XSplit. So let's see if anything shows up here. That's room 705. See any objects? Nothing. Nothing for anything. Okay then. Yeah. I'm not going to go to RE2 and V unless I find an object file to look at, so most of these don't have any. Oh, okay, let's go to the next one. This is room 704 I'm loading. This is definitely a test room. There were some, when I played 1.5, there was a few blank rooms where they didn't have the textures on them. So I think the way the pre-rendered backgrounds work is they make sort of a base, like a blank base of actual 3D models, and then they sort of base the pre-render on that. Like they still have to put barriers, so I think 3D objects are created to make a barrier in the room, like for walls and objects and stuff, and then the pictures kind of laid over it somehow. You know, I thought I came across the room that was the texture for this, but this is completely new. There's like a room that sort of has railing, sort of has like a path of rails that kind of reminded me of a track, but this is definitely, this looks like a train yard, and I did not see this in 1.5. We know that Raccoon City has a train yard, and you sort of, I guess the area just before you go on the little turntable that goes down to the lab, it's like a warehouse area, but you don't really, there's not much to it. There's definitely a lot like a train yard to go to. I think in, it's either Umbrella Chronicles or Darkside Chronicles. I could have swore you do go to a train yard area. I'm trying to think which game. I don't think you go to a train yard in Resident Evil 3. Raccoon City has one though, and it's like, I think it's one of the areas that people are like, oh, I wish, you know, we could play in it. Outbreak might have something. I don't know. I haven't spent as much time with Outbreak, but it's just kind of interesting. You can see a warehouse here, and I think these might be train cars. Although, it kind of looks like the track is just hanging above, like, an open area. I'm not sure. This looks like a little security room or something. Yeah, there's like a big, open space that looks like it goes down here. It might be a pool or something. Huh, that's weird. So let me check Noesis real quick. I'm not going to switch to it unless I find something, which I'm not. Yeah, it's unfortunate a lot of these are empty. Let me just check the next one. I guess I'm just going to check a few of these to see if anything comes up. And then I'll switch to that when I get to that room. Yeah, a lot of these just empty. Okay, let's just go to the next one. This is room 703. This is an area you can get to, but I think it's blocked off. With the debugger in Magic Zombie Door version of 1.5, You can use, well, I think it's Martin Biohazard's patch that allows you to use the debugger to get into locked rooms you wouldn't normally be able to get to because the game's unfinished. I'm not really sure. This looks like it's outside a prison area. Because the prisons are definitely different at 1.5. It sort of reminds me of the underground tunnel that goes to Iron's room in a way. Huh. Or maybe something that goes to the sewers. But the, when I was playing through 1.5, the area that leads to the sewers is completely different. There's like a, outside area that's, got like a barrier over it, and there's like police cars and stuff in it, and there's like a little, there's like a couple manholes you go into that lead to the sewer areas. So it's much different. It's not like Final RE2 where you have a manhole in the kennel that leads down to the sewers. There's like a few manholes outside you go into. And I think there's one in 1.5. There's actually a garage that has a manhole in it where you can go down into the sewers as well. Now, I don't think I saw this. There's like medical areas in 1.5. There's supposed to be a medical room. I don't believe it looks like this though. This reminds me of Resident Evil 1 Remake though. This reminds me of a lot of rooms in that. So, I'm not sure. Like, you even have the x-rays here. So, I don't remember coming across this in 1.5. So I gotta wonder if they reuse this for the remake of 1. Especially since you've got an x-ray, this bunch of observation tables. Now here's something interesting. We have sort of a, I guess a test area, or maybe a base for the RPD lobby in the final version of Resident Evil 2, although it's definitely different. There's definitely some pieces here. Like you notice though, it has, I think it might be based on some of the early concept art for this specific lobby, because the lobby in, there's actually 2 lobbies you go into with 1.5. There's like, because the RPD in that is so huge. But it's like totally different. It doesn't have a high ceiling. It doesn't have this art museum look. It's got a low ceiling. There's like sort of a blue look to it. It's very different. It definitely doesn't look like an art museum. This does, but the you notice the 2 stairways going up behind. In the Resident Evil 2 remake, I believe they based the they kind of mixed a little bit of the final version of the lobby with some of the early concept art, but you have these 2 staircases going up. But even in the remake, they changed the way that, like the staircases would go up this way, to the back, instead of like, the way they are here. And there's no like, upper floor going across here. And I don't even know what this is. It's like, this looks like it's a door or something for a statue maybe. It's very basic looking here. I think even the doors look different too. The doors are definitely wider. Some of the style of the stuff around the doors and everything look different. You don't even have a desk here. I think a desk is in front this time. Yeah, you can get a closer look. This actually looks a bit more similar to like Resident Evil 1. But even that has like a kind of an upper area. But in Resident Evil 1, you have kind of like a back thing up on the stairs that you go outside to like a courtyard and the graveyard. It's just kind of interesting. Closer look at the door. Definitely different. There's no like, things going off to side doors here. So this is 1.5. I don't remember what area this kind of looks like a basement area. Janitorial stuff here. So yeah, it looks, yeah, it's part of the basement. The basement, that's like kind of quite a bit to it too, so it's a little bit confusing. Fortunately, I don't have model files for any of that either. I'm still looking, but there's not a lot in the folders for the actual room, the RDT folders. 607. This is room 607. I forgot to mention the dates. Most of the other so the other rooms I was looking at, they're all listed for except for the last one. These are listed for April 1997 is when they were made, and then the last room I showed, which is room 706, that is July 1997 when that was, I guess, when it was created, I don't know, or put on the CD. Now, the room I'm about to look at, which is room 607, the date is December 22nd, 1986. So it's a lot earlier. So we'll probably be getting into more like actual 1.5 stuff. Now, so this is obviously part of a train. It actually kind of looks like it's on fire with the lighting. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. Or if it's supposed to be like there's fire outside, I don't know. So you do access the train when playing, well, the Magic Zombie Door version of 1.5. But there's only like 2 rooms. And I will come across the background images that go to those later. But this is definitely different. I think it's even different from the final version of Resident Evil 2. Like, this is something you can't even get to. With the gas cans and everything, it reminds me of the train in Resident Evil 0. Like, because I mean, the train's such a big section of that game. It's the entire, like, beginning of that game. So there's a lot to it. But this reminds me of, like, the some of the in-cars. So, and then you'll see, it's funny because, like, when I go through more rooms after this, there's actually different versions of this particular type of train. So I think they were testing out. It's actually pretty nice looking, but it just didn't get used. Because you can only access like 2 rooms in the version 1.5 that I played, I don't know if you can go to any cars that look like this at all. I don't know if you would have been, I don't know if there's supposed to be like a boss. I don't know if 1.5 had a G5 that you'd find in a train at all. So most of these things I'm going to look at after is all going to be different versions of this train. A little bit of 1.5 mixed with the final version of Resident Evil 2. There's a lot. I noticed, wow. You know, I actually noticed the RDT files that I extracted, they're kind of missing the train rooms, which is unfortunate. So I don't have any models or anything. Okay, now you see a difference. This is definitely a different train. See, the connecting point here between the 2 cars looks similar, or maybe about the same, but the lighting's different. Definitely a different style of room. The boxes are different. It looks like something, because there's actually 2, let's see, where is it? So you have like a normal version of this view, and then there's like a damaged version, meaning something is meant to break through the floor here. What it is, I don't know. Maybe some sort of boss. This is room 606. I will look at, let's see, room 605. So it sort of looks, this one looks like a combination of the previous thing I looked at, but with the cars that had the gas cans in them. But even the boxes and some of the items are changed. The lighting's different. So just another, and also the double doors are missing. Now I'm not sure if these are supposed to be separate cars, but they wouldn't like really match up. They're all like differently styled. And then we have an outside area here. Next one, I believe, is another car. The 1.5 train is in here somewhere. This looks like the final Resident Evil 2 train. 1.5's train is styled similarly, but it's a lot more open. And I believe there's more benches here. The coloring is different too. Like this is like gray and silver colored. And the other one, 1.5 is more like brown. So a couple different views here. And that goes up to the control area. And the control area for this sort of looks similar to 1.5, so I'm not sure. I think 1.5's control area might be after the when I look at the room, the main car for 1.5. So this might actually be RE2's final control for the train. Maybe not. It's hard to tell because I do remember when I was. You can't really do much when you go into the control room. A cutscene activates, and it's interesting because 1.5, I guess, compared to the final version of Resident Evil 2, you can save a bunch of people and leave with them on the train, even, I guess, Annette, because the cutscene that played when I went into this control room was Annette and Leon speaking, but the text was missing. And then I remember it showing like a warning here. So maybe after she talks to you, I think you're supposed to go to the next car. And like you have, in the thing I played, you had like Sherry, Kendo, or I guess his name was John in 1.5. Who else was there? I think Marvin was still alive. Marvin sticks around for a long time. You can save him. In fact, you can actually, he's the one that you have to get a vaccine for when you're in the labs instead of Sherry. So, I mean, you can save a lot of people. It's kind of like, I don't know, in a way, I like original Resident Evil 2, but 1.5's thing with people working together to survive the outbreak and leaving together, it kind of seems more realistic to me, like, especially to, like, a lot of the zombie movies we've seen where, I mean, sometimes there's only 2 people that make it out, or 3, but in other times it's like a whole group of people that manage to get out. But with 1.5, it's based on your actions with those characters and whether you save them. So it's similar to Resident Evil 1, where you can choose to do things to save your team members and then get the best ending. I think we have another, there's like quite a few. Okay, this is actually outside the train, which I don't think I came across in 1.5. I don't think this is a room you come across in Resident Evil 2 either. It's just outside the train. There's actually quite a few. The thing is this is stylized after the outside area when you're playing the B version, or the B scenario in, the final version of Resident Evil 2 where you eventually have to fight Mr. X. But this scenario I don't think you even get to. Like you can see side of the train here. And there's a door leading out. I don't even know where this goes to. Oh, fuel gate. Diesel train. So maybe, there was a thing where you actually had to get fuel for the train first. Maybe this is a fuel area. So I guess I'll do a lot of the train stuff, and then I might have to do a part 2, because this is a lot to go through here. Okay, this is an area you go through in final Resident Evil 2 when you're playing the second scenario. You have to get the... I forgot what this is for. I think there's like two different versions of this area. But you have to get like the... what are they? They're like these 2 power things, or battery things or whatever, to turn the train on, I believe. Instead of getting fuel. So I think maybe originally you were supposed to get fuel for the train, and in this you have to get the you have to turn on the power for it in order to get the train running. And I believe there's actually a timer. Yeah, the timer starts when you're doing this. Different views of the train. So that was room 601. Getting through the 600s. Now, when you're using the debugger for both the Source Next version of Resident Evil 2 and 1.5, it'll actually, all the rooms are kind of in sets. So that kind of tells you what general, like, section of the game they're in. Like, 600s would be like the end of the game. So the outside, the train, I think the, maybe some parts of the lab. And then like, 500s will be like mostly the lab. 400s would probably be like the sewers and everything. And, the hard thing about trying to jump areas when I was playing, well, at least the Source Next version, because the debugger for 1.5 will let you go up to the different sets, like, however you want. You don't have to go to a specific room to jump to a different set of rooms. Like, I had to do that in the Source Next version. It's like, oh, you can't jump from set 100 to set, like, 400. You have to, like, jump through rooms a little bit and get to a point where you're, like, closer to... Let's say you're, like, in the RPD and you want to get to the sewer. You kind of have to go through some of the rooms and get to the basement in order to actually jump to a new set of rooms. It's a little bit annoying. I would have been able to do, because of that limitation, I wasn't able to do as many crazy things as I wanted to kind of glitch some of the cutscenes. Or like, say, if I was paired up with a character, I wouldn't have been able to like jump to early parts of the games because of that limitation, so. This is an area you go to in Resident Evil 2, definitely. When you're playing the first scenario, you go down here when the timer's off after you defeat, like if you're playing Claire first, you fight Birkin, and then, the timer's still going when you're going through here, and then you reach the train, and then it just goes to the end cutscene. You don't have to do anything else. I don't even think you have to go through here. I think when you're playing, the second scenario, you actually go through this gate, and that leads to the other area. I think there's a lot of views here that aren't even used. Almost done with the train stuff, I think. I'm going to take a look at a few more, and then I'll do a part 2 for these, because, like I said, lots to go through. This is definitely, this is the lab area in 1.5. Like I said, 1.5's labs and RPD and everything, there's tons of rooms. Tons. Okay, so this leads to a hangar. There's a hangar area, and I remember encountering the ape monsters of 1.5 in here, and there's like different areas they show up as well. An interesting thing in 1.5 though is that you have different versions of the rooms. Like, I guess maybe there's a fire happening, or you go through the rooms when the destruction is occurring. So, you'll have like a normal version of this room, and then there's a version that has like fire and some damage to the walls and stuff. Meaning like you're going through as there's like, I don't know, a thing going off. self-destruct, I guess. Maybe it's like slowly destroying the facility as you're getting through it, compared to the regular Resident Evil 2 where you don't see that at all. Like, I'll show you, there's like that one control room that has all the screens on it. There's actually a damaged version of it that has like fire and everything around it, which is pretty cool. So in 1.5, when you go through the hangar, it leads... I don't even know what this is for. This is a small vent. I don't know if you go through this as Sherry or not. But this leads to the train. But in the version 1.5 that I played, there isn't like an area outside of the train that you go to. It just went straight through the train, like inside the train. So maybe the room for that is missing. Like those guys didn't have the room that goes outside for this. So this is a door that goes, well, it went inside the train, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to go outside somewhere. Okay, one more. We're probably getting into the lab areas now since they're labeled 500s. We're loading room 513. Oh, here we go. This is one of the test rooms, I believe. It's just a hallway. Yeah, I'm not even sure. Maybe this is supposed to be a room in a lab somewhere where you have like a box to push. Really basic. I don't know. It's just interesting to see, though, the base for these rooms. I'll do one more. And also with the... I was using Noesis to see if there's any texture or model files, and I've checked up to, like it's missing... It goes to 700s and then jumps straight up to 300s, so I'm completely missing this 600 sets, 500, 400, so when it gets to the room 300 sets, maybe I'll start looking to see if there's any objects or textures again, otherwise there's like nothing in those RDT folders, so... let's see, that was room 513, let's load 512. And this is, yes, this is 1.5, but this is during, like the end, I guess, when there's fire and destruction and smoke and stuff. I don't know where this goes to. There's so many parts to that lab. It's confusing. I believe, like, there's a lot more rooms that lead to the power room instead of just like one way in Resident Evil 2. There's like a lot more that lead into it. I know I said I was going to do one more. I'll go to 510, then I'll stop it, because these are just way too interesting to look at. Here we go. Here's what I was talking about. So this is that main area that has the screens. This is the damaged version of it, which is pretty damn cool. So, you know, there's like, the lighting suggests there's like fire going on, and, most of the screens are broke. There's like damage to the area and everything. It's pretty cool to go through. And this is 1.5's version of that room. Which when I play 1.5, you really can't interact with much. Because it's incomplete, so you can't do a lot of puzzles or use items on some of the things. I think there was like one or two puzzle-based things like earlier in the game that I could look at, but other than that I couldn't do much. So this looks like it's something for a disc, maybe? I'm not sure. And then 510. It's the last one I'm going to do for now. And this looks like actually both 1.5 and the final version of Resident Evil 2 use this hallway that goes to the power room. I think depending on what scenario you go through, I can't remember if G actually shows up here or not, or Annette in this hallway. But yeah, both of them are the same. I'll do one more since that's something that's already been seen. Let's see if we can get something that is new. Okay, here we go. This is also a test area, which I'm not even sure. Maybe this is supposed to be a base for the main shaft with the fuse? Almost looks like some kind of toy room with the basic shapes and the colors. But yeah, some kind of either room for some kind of puzzle, or... because you have all this stuff here around. I'm not even sure what that's for. And it's also got a strangely domed type of roof to it, so... yeah, not really sure. One door that goes to it, so... it almost makes you think maybe a statue was meant to be here or something. Very bizarre. Okay, I'm gonna stop here, and then, I might see if I can try and extract more things, but what I'll do for the next part is just kind of like this. Just go through the rooms, and maybe see if I can get to a point of finding the room folders that actually have objects in them, or texture files or something, so we can take a look at those. But it's really fascinating looking at what's left on this demo disc, like all the 1.5 stuff, all the base stuff for early Resident Evil 2 rooms, and like just rough drafts and everything. It's really fascinating, you know, just kind of teaches you on how the process of these games are made.